So as we think about strategic analysis, we want to think about three sets of questions that we want to ask ourselves. And these three sets of questions are what form what I like to call the Strategist challenge. First and foremost, we have to ask a series of questions about what are the values of the organization, of the firm. What's our mission? What's the scope of our business? And ultimately, what do we value at the end of the day? One way to try to get your hands around these set of questions, especially if you're analyzing a business not of your own, is to look at the mission statement of those businesses. So almost every business has a mission statement, and arguably a lot of these are developed for marketing purposes and the like, and they have lots of flowery language. But at the same point, they often reveal some interesting things about a company when you look at these statements. So I've shared with you a number of them here. Here's one for the Walt Disney Company. Their mission is to be one of the world's leading producers and providers of entertainment and information. So for one, they're defining their industry as entertainment and information. And two, they're defining their aspirations as being a worldwide leader. Google's mission, to organize the world's information, make it universally accessible and useful. Very broad mission statement there that can go in many different directions, and very grandiose in some respects when thinking about what they've defined for themselves. Dell, on the other hand, is a little more specific. They want to be the most successful computer company. They define their segment, they define their aspirations, and they define how they'll do that by delivering the best customer experiences and markets they serve. I'll also share one here from Citigroup, very interesting. They want to be the most respected global financial services company. They're obligated to deliver profits, but equally important to them is to deliver those profits and generate growth responsibly. This idea of values, again, what values do they bring to their enterprise? Just a few more here. Chevron, their vision to be the global energy company most admired for its people, partnerships, and performance. Facebook, its mission to give the people power to share and make the world more open and connected. And then finally, one from Ford. We are a global family with a proud heritage, passionately committed to providing personal mobility for people around the world. Not automobiles, personal mobility. Once again, global in scope, and some of their values are embedded in that. This is a critical question again, the values of the organization. It is tempting, as we often do, or sometimes do, to think about the mission of the business is simply to maximize the shareholder value. I would argue at the end of the day, the mission of all businesses is to create value for some or all of its shareholders. And assuredly, for many enterprises, this idea of maximizing shareholder value is critical and important. As a strategist, I don't find it very useful though, because at the end of the day, a business has to define its scope and its limitations of how it would pursue that objective. Think about Bill Gates with Microsoft. Bill Gates didn't go out to make the most money in the world. Bill Gates went out to set up the world's most successful software company. And oh, by the way, he made a lot of money doing that. And that fell back to his investors and his shareholders. But at the end of the day, they were defined by that scope, by that mission and those values. And those are important for both understanding where a firm may position itself and how that might actually constrain the choice set amongst the many ways a firm may position themselves in various markets. Beyond values, we need to ask ourselves about opportunities. Maybe you have a great mission, you have a great scope that you're trying to target, but if there is no market demand for that position, clearly you're not going to be in business for long. Take Kodak. Kodak, a very successful company, 100-year history, producing film. Well, this was a wonderful opportunity for many, many years, but as many of you are aware, the market has shifted. The technology has changed. There's been a disruption in the marketplace with digital photography. And now, unfortunately, Kodak has declared bankruptcy. There was simply no longer a market opportunity for the way they've positioned themselves in the marketplace. Market demand is one condition, but we also need to think about competition. Well, who else, if anyone, offers the value proposition that we're proposing to offer to others? It may be the case that while you have a potential market opportunity, if everyone else is doing it, it might be very hard to be profitable. And we're going to talk more about that, especially in our next lecture. The third thing we need to ask ourselves is about capabilities. Perhaps we have a good position, perhaps we have recognized an opportunity, but do we actually have the capability to execute on that opportunity? What are our strengths? What can we do well? And furthermore, do we have a competitive advantage? Now, competitive advantage is a term used quite a bit in the strategy world, and it has a very specific meaning at the end of the day. Competitive advantage is not just what we do well, It's what we do better than others. It's always in the comparative here when we think about competitive advantage. We might have a very high quality product, but it isn't necessarily a competitive advantage if everybody has a high quality product. At the end of the day, what's our differentiator? How do we distinguish ourselves from others who might be competing with us? So once again, there are three main buckets of questions we need to ask ourselves as we complete a strategic analysis. What are the values of the organization in terms of its scope, its mission? What are the opportunities in terms of market demand and industry structure and competition? And finally, capabilities. What are our strengths? What are our competitive advantages that we bring to this marketplace? Combining those three, we hope to identify valuable competitive positions and answer the critical question, how do we create and sustain value to our various stakeholders? Now, for the rest of this series of lectures, we're going to be taking a deep dive into various elements of this three-pronged challenge that we face as strategic analysts. In the next couple lectures, we're going to take a deep dive into opportunities. We're going to ask some questions about competitive markets and about industry structure and how to analyze that as we think about the opportunity set. We'll follow that up with a series of lectures looking at capabilities. How do we think about and analyze whether a firm has an actual competitive advantage or not? And we bring that all together to discuss this idea of how do we position ourselves in a marketplace given our values, given our opportunities, and given our capabilities. The last few lectures will then build off of this, discussing various extended topics like competitive dynamics over time as firms jockey for position. We'll talk about diversification and retaining a very diversified portfolio of businesses within the same organization.